or picture in a report, refer to the page number. If you're having technical difficulties, please use the chat function. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. If there is more than one application, parties are advised that after each application is heard in turn, as set out in the agenda pack, the subcommittee will not retire after each application. The parties can contact the licensing service to be informed of the decision the following day, or can simply wait until they are notified of the decision. Applicants and all other parties will be asked to leave the proceedings after their item is concluded. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. Please could I ask the subcommittee to appoint a chair?
Please, Councillor Suso Runga would like to appoint Councillor Gilbert Smith as chair, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Seconded.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for that, and welcome everyone today to Licensing Subcommittee D, Thursday the 10th of November at 2 o'clock. So welcome everyone. Before we start, I'd just like to go round the virtual room just to introduce ourselves. So I'm Councillor Smith, I'm the licensing chair and also a councillor in Stoke Newington. Councillor Suso Runga.
I'm Councillor Suso Runga and I'm on the committee and I am the ward councillor for Hackney Central.
Thank you. And Councillor Conway.
Hi, I'm Councillor Conway and I am a councillor in Hackney Central.
Thank you. And Councillor Walker, if you just want to just chip in and just tell us what you're doing here today.
Yeah, hi, I'm Councillor Walker. I'm councillor for the Beauvoir ward. I'm on the licensing committee, but I'm having this meeting today.
Thank you very much. And Channing?
Hi, everybody. My name is Channing Riviere. I'm the Principal Licensing Officer.
Thank you very much. And we've got Mario, who's our wonderful IT expert. Thank you, Mario, for everything you do. Andy? Mr. Newman?
He's having problems hearing, Chair. So that's why he's saying that he can't hear. So I don't know, Mario, if you can help. He's been muted. I don't know what's happened.
Okay, well, let's just carry on with the introductions. Suba, would you like to come in?
Hi, I'm Subhash Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer, who will be presenting the report today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I've got someone called Gertch on here. If you would come in and just introduce yourself, please.
Hi there, good afternoon. My name is Gertch Patty. I'm from the Environmental Protection Team. I'm here for the temporary event notice a little later on.
Thank you very much, Gertch, for that. And then I've got Emmanuel on my screen. Hi there. Do you want to just introduce yourself, Emmanuel?
Hi, my name is Emmanuel, and I'm the designated person or supervisor of the premises. Sorry, I'm a bit shy.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that. I think, Andy, can you hear us now?
So yes, I lost you for a bit, but I'm sure I have an idea of what you were saying. So yeah,
we were just doing introductions to start with.
Sure.
Do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, certainly. And Andy Newman, licensing agent for the applicants. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I think that's the first bit over and done with. You've got your agenda item in your pack or online. So you can see that there's 7 agenda items there. The first one is the election of chair. And number 2 is apologies. Any apologies for absence? I don't believe I've had any.
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any declarations of interests that members would like to declare at this point, including Councillor Walker? None? Okay, great. That's fantastic. So now, agenda item number 4, we'll just run through the hearing procedure, which is basically as follows. So step 1 is the introduction, appointment of chair and the introduction, which we've done. Step 2, the licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will then present their case in support of their application. That'll be Mr. Newman. And then responsible for authorities will come in. That will be Mr. Channing and Gertch, I presume, on this one. EP, maybe not EP actually. It's just licensing, I think, for this one. And then other persons at step 5, of which we don't have any for this one. Step 6, these are all 5 minutes, by the way. Step 6 is a discussion phase, and that takes 15 minutes or so. Step 7, closing remarks. Step 8, any final clarifications, and then we'll ask you all to leave, all the relevant parties, and then we will go on to consider this, and you will hear the result either tomorrow by phone or within 5 days in writing. So let's fire ahead with this and go straight to the licensing officer, please, to outline the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing Service on receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for La Pizza, 73 Rivington Street, to seek permission to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises from 11 to 2300 Monday to Friday and from 10 to 2300 Saturday, Sunday, as stated within the report. Representation remains from the licensing. We have received additional information from the applicant, and these documents have been circulated. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Now, if we could move swiftly to step 3 and just ask the applicant to present their case, and that will be through Mr. Newman, I presume. So welcome, Mr. Newman. Off you go. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a modest application for a small cafe restaurant with no more than 30 patrons. Whilst this is in the Shoreditch Spa, we hope that the committee is reassured that none of the licensing authorities, save Mr. Riviere or anyone else, has remaining reps about this application. We are grateful to Mr. Riviere for ongoing positive dialogue and believe that this is now pretty much a policy decision. La Pizza boasts an impressive team. Davide has successfully run a highly regarded independent chain of coffee shops in London and a highly regarded cocktail bar in Liguria, Italy. His team include people that have worked in Michelin-starred venues. They are responsible operators who are also responsible and promote recyclable and compostable friendly actions and use local suppliers in London, and some of whom are in Hackney. The target customer base will be those that work and live in Shoreditch or habitually come to Shoreditch to enjoy what Shoreditch has to offer. We have provided background evidence from a solicitor, a finance advisor, and a coffee supplier who also has a cafe in Charlotte Street to reinforce these claims. Also, the Charlotte Street Cafe, for example, that team are going to visit the restaurant cafe if successful. The cafe will have seated customers as per your policy appendix, as in my attachments, which are to be encouraged. It's noteworthy that Kerry Ryan of the police has not is happy with this application in the Shoreditch Triangle. In fact, the better part of the Shoreditch Triangle, I would say. We've included some law and some images to help the committee, and also the details of staff and their history. We respectfully suggest that there will be little, at best, or no cumulative impact on the area, with a highly attractive new offering for local people. The applicant needs this license for 2 reasons. Given the quality of what is on offer, this will be expected by the clientele. And 2, there is a financial need to be able to serve alcohol to make this business work and be financially viable. We've seen that all the main parties are signed up to helping hospitality venues. The law and your policy does accept that you can go beyond the policy, as often you do. And we would just ask the committee respectfully to look favourably upon this application. Chair.
Great. Thank you very much. That was 3.5 minutes. Fantastic.
I could have said more, but yeah.
Well, if you've got some more to say, you've got another 1.5 minutes if you need it.
I think I've made a bit of a point in the submission, so I don't want to overload you at this late stage. So.
Okay. Just a very brief opportunity for any points of clarification. Not really meant to ask at this stage, but just in case there's any small points if you want to come in, members. No? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so if we go to responsible authorities, and we could ask Mr. Riviere to come in and represent the licensing team on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So you can see my representation at Appendix B on page 36 of the report. So since I made my representation, I have had some conversations with the operator and their agent, and they have agreed to various conditions to alleviate some of the concerns that I had. Some of these being that there'll be no deliveries to the premises from 7 a.m. onwards on any day, given their close proximity to residential addresses. The premises will not be operating any type of takeaway delivery service. So this excludes the likes of Uber Eats, etc., which could potentially cause a problem for residents. The premises also would not engage in any promotion of bottomless brunches or these kind of activities, because they did make an allusion to brunch style activity, but they've clarified this as a sort of all-day breakfast. So they've agreed to condition that, and they've agreed to a Challenge 25 scheme. From what I understand of the hours that they've agreed is for licensable activity would be 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Monday to Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sundays, which brings them within our core hours. And alcohol is ancillary to food in the premises. There's no stand-up bar, so it's seated table service only. And smokers are limited to 5 persons after 10 p.m. So given all of those different regulations they've agreed to, it does alleviate the vast majority of my concerns. And even though it is in our SPA, a vast majority of the problems we have in the SPA happen after midnight. So it's negligible if there would be any increased impact to the cumulative impact in the area, Chair. It's really just a policy decision at this point from our point of view.
Okay. Okay, well, that's very useful. I don't know if members want to raise any points of clarification at this stage before we enter into the discussion. I suppose if you've just got questions you want to ask. I mean, Mr. Channing, just to start with, your submission was very thorough, and I just want to make sure that you're completely content, because at the end, you say the applicant has not demonstrated sufficient regard to the licensing policy or the special policy area in the application. So what I'm hearing now is that you are more satisfied that with these new conditions that they've kind of alleviated any of your major concerns. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, because after further discussion with the applicant and then later on with their agent, Mr. Newman, it became clear that maybe the applicant didn't illustrate as much as they needed to in the initial application. So from discussion with the applicant, certain things have been clarified that have alleviated my concerns, and obviously the agreed conditions that and the hours as well have really gone forward to alleviate my concerns.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Riviere, for that. So I'd like to invite members with any questions or points of clarification. Councillor Suzu Runge, sorry.
Thank you. Could I just ask, thank you very much. That was very thorough and clear information. So thank you for that. Could I just refer to Appendix B, page 38? Again, could I have a little bit more detail, or did you actually receive a little bit more detail about the possible cumulative impact? And were you given any more information about the how we could regard that, how we could address the possible cumulative impact. If there is any more information that was given in respect of that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor. From my discussions with the applicant, they've clarified that it's a seated table service restaurant, and because the alcohol is ancillary to food, typically, even though it's located within the SPA, from our observation and experience, these premises tend not to be as problematic as vertical drinking premises. And given the hours that they've agreed to, it would be my suggestion that it's unlikely to have a large negative impact on the cumulative impact experience in the area. A vast majority of the data that supports the Shoreditch Special Policy Area is from information that happens after midnight. So incidents of crime, ambulance call-outs, etc., the vast majority of these happen after midnight and typically are not linked to these kind of premises where the operator has set out to operate a sort of high-end seated table restaurant. They're not usually the type of premises that cause us a lot of issues with regards to undermining the licensing objectives.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Conway, have you got any points you'd like to raise?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just had a question for Andy, really, around the capacity, because there's just if we can have some clarification on whether the capacity is 25 or 30, that would be helpful.
Can't hear you, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd like to, if I may, answer your question and expand later. My understanding is that the capacity would be a maximum of 30. Speaking to the applicants earlier, it may well be come down to 25, but this is, in the scheme of things, this is very small. Many councils have exceptions, probably the wrong word to use these days, but premises under 50 in many other surrounding councils have that. I know it's not in your policy, but 30 itself is a negligible number. And if I may, Chair, if I could just add a little bit on the cumulative impact to expand on the earlier question. Sorry, my screen is frozen. See, firstly, the idea is to have a local customer base. So if we have people that are already eating or drinking or whatever in Shoreditch, or go to Shoreditch, if we get those people coming to Lepeza, then there is no cumulative impact. Albeit it's possible that somebody else who decides to come to Shoreditch might choose to go to Lepeza as opposed to one of the other finer offerings, some of whom are in Rivington Street, by the way. And also on the appendix referred to, it says that Shoreditch has a low number of seated venues, and as Mr. Riviere quite rightly says, it's looking more at those badly run places, or places particularly with off sales or the later hours, rather than what's clearly an upmarket stylish kind of restaurant. Plus, of course, I detailed some law saying how that you can look past your policy because law outweighs policy. I hope you find that helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just on another point of clarification in regards to Sunday operating hours. I believe I heard you say 8 on a Sunday evening. Is that correct, Mr. Newman?
I didn't say 8.
I mean, you said that you mentioned. I'm sure you mentioned the hours to 8 o'clock, and I'm not suggesting that you've moved to 8. I'm just. Is that?
If I could jump in, Chair, in the communication I had with the applicant, that's what they said to me in their email, that Sundays would be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I believe it is.
That's correct.
Yeah. from 10 a.m.
Just seeking clarification on that one. I mean, obviously, I mean, at the moment you're applying to 11 on a Sunday, and I'm sure colleagues would agree with me that we would like you to go to LP3, which is 10:30 on a Sunday. So to be completely in line with our local policy, I don't know how your clients feel about having that changed on the application to Sundays to 10:30. I mean, since you won't be opening, and you know, you're going to be shutting at 8 anyway. You're scratching your head, Mr. Newman. What's the problem? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Got it. Sorry, Chair. I was unaware of this 8 o'clock agreement.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was discussing with the clients earlier today in a pre-con meeting that we may need to consider to go down to 22:30.
Yeah.
Because that would make sense. So we're going to discuss that. But in light of an agreement of 8, unless everything's been formally agreed, unless it causes major problems for Mr. Riviere to expand upon, I would advocate 10:30, sir.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're saying basically. That's all we're saying here. We're not getting transfixed on the 8 o'clock thing. We're just saying, would you be willing to go down to 10:30 on a Sunday? That's all.
I see my clients nodding their heads in agreement.
It just makes it it just tidies it up basically, so it kind of, you know, it fits with LP3 a lot better. And you know, obviously Sundays are that kind of protected time of the day. Okay, any other questions at all, members, that you'd like to? Amanda, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yes, just to clarify, Chair, we're saying that the alcohol will go till 10 and closing at 10:30 on a Sunday. Is that correct?
I think it's alcohol to 10:30, closing at 11 would be my interpretation. Don't know if members agree.
Normally, within the core hours, we close.
I think 4 hours until 11:30, aren't they? Sorry, 10:30 on a Sunday.
Just checking, double checking. Sorry. Yes, sorry, you are right. 10:30. Yes.
Mr. Newman, is that a legacy hand or?
No, that was a hand to help clarify on that point, but it's been resolved. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so if members don't have any further questions or any, you know, we can go straight to closing remarks. Any further questions, councillors? Okay, great. So if we just move to closing remarks then, please. Mr. Newman, do you want to come in with your closing remarks?
Yes, thank you. Applicants with a proven background and support, no real opposition from anybody actually from the authorities or anywhere else or reps. The numbers are so slow, we can't even be sure there'll be cumulative impact as discussed. I think it's going to be a fantastic addition. It just can't and won't cause any problems. If it did, I'm sure the authorities would be down on it like a ton of bricks, but that is virtually impossible in my submission. And law and your progressive attitude towards the cumulative impact policy, special policy area, for the last few years reinforces that you encourage small businesses as highlighted and supported by everybody really in these difficult times. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Riviere, do you want to come back?
Yes, Chair. I don't really have anything further to add other than given what has been agreed as to the regularisation of the potential premises, then our concerns are it won't have a significant risk to undermine the licensing objectives given what they've agreed. So it's really just a policy decision at this point, whether the license is granted or not. Nothing further to add, Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much. And on behalf of your clients, Mr. Newman, I would just like to thank them for coming forward with those new conditions. Those are very welcome, and it makes our job a lot easier. I would say that obviously, I mean, this is obvious, good relations with your neighbours, folks, is really important. So just bear that in mind late at night, you know, when you're dispersing the people from your restaurant. But it sounds a fantastic venture, and all the best of luck with it. So if we could just ask you to leave now, we can move on to the second one. Thank you very much for attending, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great. So now we just need to get Mr. Dadds back.
Chair, I'm just going to observe this next hearing.
Okay. Brilliant. Right. Should we just wait for Mr. Dadds to pop onto the call? Can't hear you, Amanda.
Contacting him now. I'm just contacting him now.
Okay. Was he here? Was he here for the introductions?
Yes. He left just before.
Oh, do you think we need to do them again?
We can ask him, but I don't think so because I think he's familiar with them.
Right.
Hello, Mr. Dadds. Are you able to join? Thank you. He's coming.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, we'll just wait for Mr. Dadds to come on the call, folks. Apologies, everyone, for this. I'm sure he'll arrive soon.
I just realised who's here from the police? Do we have the officer here?
No, it's just from the
Good afternoon.
No, sorry. So we have the relevant officers who are attending for it.
Good afternoon. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. I'll go on silent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dadds. Okay, so we've essentially reached, we've just done point 5 on the agenda. This is for your benefit, Mr. Dadds, which is 73 Rivington Street. Agenda item 6, Aaron's Cafe at 268 Stamford Hill, has been resolved already. You'll be glad to hear. So we're going to move swiftly on to the item 7, which is the temporary event notice at the U7 Lounge, 2 to 4 Osman Road, London N1 5FB. So if I'd like to, Mr. Dadds, I can go through the hearing procedure for your benefit if you want, but you're probably fairly familiar with all that, yeah?
I am familiar. I'm content and satisfied. You can move past that if you wish.
Okay, great, thank you. So if we would just move to step 2 then and ask the licensing officer to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Temporary notice was given to the licensing service in respect of the premises U7 Lounge, 2 to 4 Osman Road, for an event to be held on the 13th of November 2022 from midnight and finishing on the 13th of November at 2 a.m. We have received objection from the environmental protections, and we are here to decide whether to issue counter notice or not. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And moving on to step 3, I'd like to invite those in the council that exercise environmental health functions to highlight their reasons for objecting to the application as contained in the report. And I presume that's Gertch. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. You've got 5 minutes.
I can't see Gertch, actually. I wonder whether he would be kind enough to turn his video on, sir.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I've got a slightly slow connection, so just bear with me. Okay.
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Okay, so this venue has been granted at least 12 temporary event notices this calendar year, but unfortunately, almost every 10 granted has resulted in complaints from residents. The complaints relate to loud music and disturbances from patrons during the extended hours. The latest complaint was received on the 28th of October and the 29th of October. Since the latest complaint, the premises user has reassured the ward officer that the sound limiter will be reset from the nearest residential premises to ensure no nuisance is caused to nearby residents, but Environmental Protection are yet to receive this report. That's all. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any point of clarification, members, at this point? No? Happy to move on. Okay, so if we could move then to step 4, where the premises user, in this case, the Mr. Dad's representing the premises user, just to present your case in support of the application, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. You won't be surprised I'm not satisfied with the presentation by the officer. Because if you turn to the representation, I've got it as Appendix B. I don't know what page number that is, but you can see the premises has a history of complaints nearby residents. Environmental has concerns and could amount to statutory notice being served. Can you see that, Chair? Those few lines. Well, I've got a bit concern here because one, that is the representation, and at the hearing you can amplify that, but you can't give any more new information. And I've just heard information about complaint every 10. I've not seen any warning letters. My client's not aware of every 10 has had a complaint. Well, if you had a complaint on the first one, yeah, you might get the second, then you might get the third. But we've been granted. We've got one granted in, so one in July, 9th of July. Have you got the list of 10s that have been granted previously? Save me read them out. If not, I can just quickly read them out. Because they're normally in the agenda, but someone's forgot to put them in. But so
yeah, just tell us, Mr. Dad's, how many there have been. You don't have to read every single date out.
Okay. Well, can I do it this way, if you allow me? 4 in July, on average 2 a.m. 3 in August, average 1 o'clock. 4 in September, all 2 o'clock. And 1 in, I've got 1 in October, 2 a.m. And so what I'm saying, Chair, is that they've never been objected to. If you, and so my first starting position is that the officer shouldn't be able to add in new information that prejudices me today, other than what he wrote in his representation. And that you have to have the consent of all parties present if you're introducing new information. And it says a history, but it doesn't. It's the onus is on the maker of the statement to put their evidence in advance. But in any event, you can see that we've got all those 10s, and they've been granted all the way along. We have a noise limiter installed. It's currently set, I think, at 84, and we've put it down to 82. You can't hear the music outside from our premises because it's such a low level. And we've got residents above. We know we have a couple of residents that continually complain, and we have to provide CCTV, and we've had to provide other additional stuff to the police and the licensing officers. And each and every time it's found to be vexatious. We do have a big problem with that. But here, Environmental Health, my client has not received any written warning letters, as I understand it. We are aware that there was a complaint of, I think, Halloween, but we say that we believe the noise came from the glory and the garden of the matters that they were having, but certainly not from us, and won't have been from us. We believe we actually have a good working relationship with a couple of neighbours that don't have any problems, so we communicate with them. And that we've had the 10s granted each and every time. Now, this 10 is a private affair. It's a private party for a 30th birthday, so it's not open to the general public. And we obviously are clearly on notice that the Environment Health may object, and so if there are any complaints on this night, we don't get it right, then we're not likely to get our 10s for December. So I would ask that firstly you look at the rep that's been provided by the Environment Health. It's woefully inadequate. It doesn't have any probative value, any real detail, and any detail given today would be unfair to us. We've had all these 10s before without complaint. Certainly I've got no particular graduated approach here from Environmental Health, and we believe that the comment regarding noise at the end of October, we are aware of that, and we believe that that's possibly to do with the premises nearby, not us. But in any event, we have turned our music down slightly, and as I say, our noise decibel is something like 82. I'm quite happy to for the officer to come in and check that if need be, but there's no breakout of music noise. And more importantly, on crime and disorder, public nuisance, the police have not objected to this application at all. And so this is not a premises that are having issues of crime and disorder. It's a private party, well managed, with the 10, as we have done before. And we believe that you can grant it knowing the licensing objectives are met. We'll obviously make sure that everything is done and our neighbours are satisfied, hopefully, and that obviously we'll be on notice should something arise for the next 10 we apply. I don't think I can say much more than that, Chair.
Okay, great. Members, I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Just points of clarification, if that's okay, before you come in. Mr. Daz, of those 10s that you've spoken about, the 12 in July, August, September, October, did any of those go to subcommittee at all? That you know of?
No, I think they were all granted. I think they were all granted without any objection. I remember doing a 10, I think, last year, but I don't think I've done any this year before the committee. Let me just check with my client. One moment.
Thank you.
Yes, not this year, Chair. I think I did one last.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And just another question, just about, I don't want to labour the noise limiter at all, but in your documents it says 85, you said 84, and now it's 82. That's all good.
I can't remember the exact number. It's in the 80s. I apologise.
But I just wanted to speak about a little bit. As I say, I don't want to labour it too much, because it says here the events, you've got karaoke events there at times and acoustic nights. So you'll have music coming in through a PA via CDs, or you'll be playing them like that, vinyl or whatever. And then you may have microphones as well. Now I presume the microphones will be going through that noise limiter too, not just the recorded music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Everything is suppressed through the noise limiter. And Chair, I think the complaint is a complaint across the road. We've actually got flats in our block, and originally when we opened, we had some complaints upstairs, and I think we spent about 100,000, or a little bit more, the landlord and us, soundproofing, and we don't get any complaints from the neighbours directly above because there's flats, and so the whole unit is soundproofed for that purpose, and there's a noise limiter. So I don't believe that there's any complaints from inside, and certainly we've not been given those to understand whether there is, but certainly the noise limiter, everything goes through it. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. I can see Olalakan, you've got your hand up. Would you like to come in, Olalakan?
Who is Olalakan? Sorry.
I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm the ward officer for the area.
Has he made a representation, Chair?
No, I was just wondering because you just came in late on Olalekan, didn't you?
Well, initially I was there, but I didn't know it was for U7 because I know there are two committee hearings today.
Are you
Okay,
saying
so-
ward councillor?
No, he's not a
No,
councillor.
he's an environmental protection officer.
Environmental
well,
protection officer, yeah.
He works
Chair-
with Gertch. He works with Gertch Patty.
Oh,
So
I
that
see.
one representation is for both.
Yeah. So I think obviously Environmental Health have already spoken. Obviously through questions at that relevant time, it might be that officer helps with Gertch. I don't know. I don't know this officer.
But
But
they've been working together on this item.
Yeah, we're working together, yeah.
I mean,
In fact,
Mr. Dadds, I mean, it is important to hear from both of them. I mean,
I
that
don't
is.
have any problem. But is it questions for me at the moment?
I think
Well,
he's
we kind of,
clarifying the issue of the noise limiter. I think that's what he's trying to
just hold
clarify.
one second. Sorry, everyone. What we're in the stage of discussion now, Mr. Dadds. So that's where we're at. So Olalekan's got a question or a
yeah, I
submission.
just
Go ahead.
I'm the ward officer for that area, and when they put in application for temporary event notice, Gertch does come to me to get consent before approving it. We've been having complaints from the local residents, especially people at the rear of the venue and the people at the living above it. So there was a complaint in the last 2 weeks ago. There was a complaint about excessive loud music, and I've been trying to work with the licensee, which is Ismail. What I said to him was, I said, the best way to deal with this problem is to try and identify the nearest residential property that is being impacted by the noise and set the limiter from there. Because if you set the limiter from the property right above you, people at the end that are further away are not likely to be affected. So that's what I said to him. So I don't know what he's done so far, because I said last week, he said to me he had made contact with people at the back, and I insisted that no, that's really not good enough, that he needed to speak to people right above the venue to set the limiter from there.
Okay, well, thank you for that bit of clarification. Mr. Dadds, I'm sure you've got comments to make about that.
I do. Firstly, your legal advisor will tell you about that you can amplify what you've written, but you can't add anything new. And this is new stuff, which I know that says the history, but they haven't put the history in, they haven't put the information in, so you can't raise it at the committee new. But in any event, we've got a noise limiter. Everything goes through it. We've reduced it slightly. We've had all these tents before. We will work with the officers. We don't not get on with officers. We want to be able to work. We want to be able to trade and take the to do this 10, because obviously it's someone's private birthday party. We will liaise with our neighbours, and we've got a good working relationship, and we'll see if we can find someone above and just double check the sound. But it's all soundproof. The whole premises has been soundproof. We've been doing these events all this time. We think the noise source or complaint might be another premises or might be someone else, but we don't think it's us. But and I don't know if this officer has witnessed any noise breakout, but the volume is very low. It's only in the 82, 84. So the volume is very low. It's actually considered even background at 82. You don't even require a license. So under the guidance, the officer's shaking his head, but during COVID, it was accepted that 82 is background. You don't require a license, and that was what was set. But in any event, we can set the noise limiter slightly less, which we've done, and hopefully that will address that. But no one's saying that what's being complained of is directly us has confirmed that, and we will work with Environmental Health on that. But we've got a business to run, we've got people to employ. We obviously want to be neighbourly. We believe our premises is soundproof. Everything will go through the noise limiter, sir. We will manage it.
Thank you, Mr. Dadds. Olalekan, I just want to hold you there for a second. Just because, I mean, in the papers, you'll note, Mr. Dadds, they have submitted a noise plan, quite an extensive noise management plan, and in there, there's quite a number of things that talk about the noise limiter. If you just excuse me 1 second till I find it again.
Sure.
You know, so it says stuff like, you know, the installation of a noise limiting equipment in all areas where events will take place.
Yep.
This equipment is linked into a supply which feeds the music system and will not allow anything playing above the set limit.
Yes.
The system also has the facility to operate at 2 sound level thresholds, selectable remotely or by a time switch. It's a handheld monitoring equipment that ensures accuracy of the sound limiter. It also said you can record on here maximum and minimum levels and is selectable for fast or slow response times. When you say it can record things, does that mean that we could go back to that evening and find out from the machine the levels that it was at then? Is that correct?
Yeah, the frequencies and etc. It's just a computerized device, so it will record what's been played through. So obviously, it's we can't. It's just a program, so it's making sure that it's suppressed, and it will tell you the frequencies.
Yeah, but does it record the limit? Is what I mean.
Yeah, it keeps a record of what's been played, as I understand. Yes.
Okay. Well, in terms of the EP officers, then I mean, obviously, you could go back, couldn't you, and have a look at those sound measurements later on if you felt you needed to. Olukan, do you want to come in?
Yes. I just, you say, because it was mentioning things like about 82 dB. I mean, how did you come about 82 dB?
Mr. Daz, do you have an answer to that one?
Yeah, yes, because that's what we're setting our noise limiter at, and also the government, when they issued guidance during COVID about music, not playing of music, the government issued guidance saying 82 dBA.
I totally disagree with you on that. You
Well,
said
no,
levels that you
well, no,
play your
I'm just
music.
saying. I'm just saying when the government issued guidance, and there was question around playing of music, the government issued guidance, and the best of my memory, sir, I don't wish to lead anyone, I'm certain it said 82 dBA.
No, it's not 82. When you play as high as 75 dB, it's in an urban area. Government will not give you 82 dB because it's excessively loud. The level of music,
hang on a moment, Mr. Chairman, can I? Because obviously my integrity is being challenged. The government issued guidance, and I will go online now. And the guidance,
you can pull it out, yes.
And they issued, I believe it was 82. But if the officer knows the guidance that I'm referring to, then maybe he can comment on it. But I don't want him guessing. If he knows the guidance, fine. If he doesn't know the guidance, I will have a look, because I will do it now, see if I can find it. But I recall it being 82. But in any event, we are setting our noise limiter at 82. And we believe everything goes through that. The building's soundproof, and we've got our management plan.
Okay, I just want to
sorry,
bring
can I just?
Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, just finish off then, Olukan.
Yeah, my advice would be to actually try and get access into one of the properties above the venue and set the limit level from there. You can't go by 82 decibels and say, oh, that's what the government says. You need to take into consideration the fact that there are residential properties near the venue. That has to be taken into consideration. So any level that is played at any venue must be set from the nearest residential property.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. Amanda, I'd like to bring you in.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to raise a couple of points, which I don't know if you want to check for clarification. Firstly, can you be clear as to whether or not the previous TENs that happened, were there any complaints about those from residents, etc., and or what the repercussions were following the TENs or before those TENs, just so that we're clear about the complaints, because this complaint that's come up now, you know, we need to understand how that's come about and whether or not it's fair in the circumstances, so that we're fair to Mr. Dad's client in the circumstances. Also, has the management plan been approved by the environmental protection team? I'm not sure. Mr. Patty, I don't know if he said anything about that.
Good point.
So we need to check that management plan is approved. And also, is it at all possible, because of this issue, potential dispute about the noise limiter level, is it at all possible for EP to go out and check the noise limiter with the premises user before the event or not? Because that may help.
We don't like to get involved when they are setting the limiter, because what we normally do is we always advise them to use an acoustic engineer that is actually registered with IOA, that is the Institute of Acoustics. The reason why we don't like to get involved is that, from experience, when we set level with them, some bad licensees, behind our backs, they go turn the music back up and play the music at higher level, and they will start telling the resident that, well, the council were here to set the level, so why are you complaining? So that's why we don't like to get involved. We like a registered member of our IOA to actually do the setting for them, and then we know there's any problem, we can always, deal with the IOA man.
Yeah. And then Olalekan, on the second question from Amanda, on the approval of the noise management plan, have you had sight of that? And
well, because I don't personally deal with TENS, but I do work with Gertch when they put in application. So we do look at that noise management plan. So if we're happy or satisfied with the mitigation measures they have in place, we always, let them have the event. So for the current one, Gertch must have looked at it, or I don't know. Gertch is there.
Would you like to comment on this bit?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a fairly generic noise management plan that the premises submits with its TENS quite recently. I'd say in the last 4 or 5 TENS, they've regularly submitted it. And thank you. I'd like to thank them for doing that. It's just that, unfortunately, there's been, over a period of time, there's been an accumulation of these complaints that keep coming through. And whilst that noise management plan is there in writing, what's actually taking place in real life might be slightly different. And that's why, obviously, we're here today to try and resolve, take this out of our hands because of the complaints that are coming through.
Yeah. So back to Amanda's first question, which was about, complaints coming from the previous TENS, 4 in July, 3 in August, 4 in September, 1 in October. Can you tell us where those complaints have come from? I mean, did you get any in July, August, September, October?
I think Ola might be best placed for this because the complaints come through to him directly.
Yeah. We get complaints from the residents.
Can I interject, please? Because I hope you don't mind. I don't want to be rude, and I think Amanda North has really been helpful. But rather than generic, if the officer can log on to their system data, let's help us with real facts, because it's not being put into the reps. In July, we had 4. Was there any complaints on those days?
Yeah.
How many, when, who?
Yep.
Now, I think that's unfair to us to have to deal with it today, but I just want to stop the generic because it puts me at a disadvantage.
I agree.
Yeah. But it does help the members, though. And we're the ones making the decision.
Yeah. No, when you say help, I think it will help you to have actual facts rather than vague.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, that's what I mean. I agree with you on the facts.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yeah. Not just hearsay. Yeah, we need facts, boys.
What I can say, I don't have the information right in front of me, but what I can say is I've been able to identify the residents are likely to be impacted by the noise. Initially, we were getting complaints from the residents facing the venue, but we've realized that they were complaining on behalf of the people at the back, because according to the information I was able to get out from the residents at the back, they said they are scared of the landlord. They are being intimidated by the licensee and the landlord. So they don't feel like complaining. They're scared. In fact, when I had a telephone conversation with them today, because I've called a lot of them today, just to get, have an idea what's going on, they said they really don't want to complain because the landlord's going to threaten them with they're going to move out, they're going to increase the rates and all that. Well, I've explained to them, if you're being disturbed, just let us know. We're not going to get involved about what is going on there. At the same time, we'll try and protect you. We're not going to disclose your details to the committee or to the licensee.
Yeah, I suppose I do agree with Mr. Dadds on this. The factual element of any disruption. I think it's very important. It's also very important, I think, for us to establish really if those complaints came from those 10s with the extra hours, or if those complaints were coming in anyway in regards to their normal hours. So a distinction between those two would be helpful for members. I'm going to bring in Amanda, and then I'm going to bring in Councillor Suzu Runga afterwards. In the meantime, if I could ask Gertjan Olalaken to go away, not go away, but maybe just come back with some more factual stuff in this moment would be really helpful for members, if you don't mind. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I could pull out complaints about the last, I could pull out the list of the complainants about the last event, but I can't go as far back. Would that be okay? The last event.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
Chair,
Let's
I
bring in
think-
Amanda. Let's bring Amanda in.
I agree, Chair. That's what I was really going to say, is that we really do need Mr. Patty or Ola to go away and tell us exactly what about these complaints, because at the moment it's very difficult for you to make a decision based on the fact that they're saying there's a complaint, but we don't have enough substantive information there to make a decision. So they do need to, one of them needs to go and check their system and say exactly, like as you were asking, where these complaints are coming from, and you know how frequently or whatever, so that we have a better idea, because it is a little bit you know, not clear at the moment, and it just is left now for members to make a decision based on very little information.
And I just interject, Mr. Chair?
Yes, just very briefly, because Councillor Suzu Runga is waiting
Sorry,
to come.
Councillor. Well, I'm just saying that the representation is in your pack, and they can amplify in part that representation, but add nothing new, because that would be unlawful, because they should have done it beforehand. I am quite content if they go away. I don't think they should be, but if they do go away and you direct them to go away, then I'd like them to have, they know the dates of the 10s, see if they've got any complaints from anyone, and how many households, because if it's the same complainant across the road that we know we have a problem with, but we know they can't possibly hear it, and we've just heard that that person is complaining on behalf of someone else that doesn't want to complain. I mean, how far do we go? Sorry, Councillor.
No, I get what you're saying, but from the point of view of us trying to clarify things based on the evidence we've got, which is in front of us, you know, they say the premises has a history of complaints. That's what they've said, and we are probing a bit further to find out exactly what kind of complaints we're talking about here. So that's what we're doing. So, Councillor Suzu Runga, do you want to come in with your points of clarification or question? Thank you.
Thank you. It was just really to Mr. Dodds. Thank you for all the information about the sound limiter. I'm just wondering if it would have been helpful, and maybe more helpful in the future, to have received more regular reports on the sound limiter, and also if there was, and if there could be in future, a risk assessment for a particular event. Might that be helpful as a way forward?
Well, we always I think we put in the 10, which we don't have to, but we do, and the officer thanked us for that. We put the noise management plan, and each event that we have, we do risk assess it. So this is a private party 30th, and we risk assess it, and the police don't raise any issue on the 10 on crime disorder. So I think you're right, we do these things. We don't normally have to, we're just dealing with an objection on noise today, and that's why you've got the noise plan. But we think that with the soundproofing, with the noise limiter, and the 10s we've had before, that show that we can operate without causing a nuisance, and we're lacking of detail, but we might get some more. Does that answer your question? I hope it does.
Well, thank you, but I think it would have been helpful to have received a report on the sound limiter. So I think that would have been helpful. But thank you.
Well, I mean, the sound limiter, these reports are very expensive. I mean, to get someone out to test it, to give a certificate, costs several £100s, and so we wouldn't be able to do that every 10. But we do it when they want to check the validity of it, and also the officers can come in with their own device, measure that the sound output and where it cuts out cuts at that. So we're satisfied that we need to do that just annually, not each time we apply, because obviously it will be cost prohibitive. So for me, being legally representing the premises today, has cost them quite a lot of money, but we've had to do it because what we don't want is not to have any attends over Christmas. We know that each and every time we have to show that we're promoting licensing objectives. So as the chair said, this device keeps a record of that output, and that can be inspected. So if there's a complaint at this party, the officers can go back, check our system, go to the source or find out what the source was and see if there's any correlation between what was heard and whether it's us.
Thank you. I'm learning about sound limiters. Thank you. But obviously looking for a way forward.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daz. Councillor Conway, you've been sitting very patiently. I'm sure you've got some comments to make.
I do. So moving on a bit from that particular issue that we've been talking about, I just wondered if we could hear from either of the officers from the environmental team on what they make of the noise management plan that has been that's included in page 70 of the pack. Also, I actually have a question for Mr. Dads on that also. Has this formed a part of previous TENS applications, or is this in response to anything? Because while I fully do accept that we don't have the details of the complaints that have been made, I'm just wondering if this is sort of indicative of there have been complaints, hence why there is a need to sort of provide these additional assurances around noise. So yes, just those two questions, please, for officers and Mr. Dads.
Officers, do you want to come in? Should I bring Olalaken back in again? You've got your hand up anyway. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Well, the problem we have with the what we've done in the team is that we asked the complainant to call us anytime they've been affected, and the problem is they won't give us access, and the simple reason is that they are scared that if the licensee or the landlord finds out that they are the complainant, they're going to be affected. So that's one of the reasons why we can't carry out an assessment. So even if we set the limiter with the premises, and after we're gone, they start playing music at the excessive level, there's really nothing we can do about it. That's number one. Then number two, I just want to find out, you said we should give you the list. Do you want the list of the complainants or the number? Because we don't want to disclose their units.
No.
Yeah,
We're trying to get a sense here of how often the complaints happen and when, really. You know,
well,
just overarching overall, because basically, you know, you said there are complaints. We're just probing a little bit more to find out exactly how often these things happen, when they happen, if with TENS, without TENS, whenever. Well, so just a nice picture, please, of what's going on down there.
This is based on what I've been able to, information I've been able to get from the complainant. They said they are affected most when they use temporary event notices. Right. So, okay. And it's very difficult because, again, we can't substantiate what they're complaining about because they're really, really worried that they're going to lose their tenancy. They're going to be evicted. So that's why we can't substantiate it. So we're in a very difficult situation ourselves. But what we've been trying to do is I've been trying to work with Mr. Ismail. You know, I call him every time. I try to speak to him that, you know, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. You know, he tells me that I'm going to do it. Even up till last week, when he said he was going to set the limiter, I wanted to make sure that he went to the right place, that the limiter is set from the property above and not from the property at the rear. So I'm trying to work with him.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important going forward that all of this stuff is, you know, recorded. Any visits recorded, you know, all the stuff. I know it is anyway, but we've got to be really on top of this because Mr. Dads, you'll be aware that obviously if complaints start coming in again, then it puts us in a very difficult position going, you know, further down the line.
Yes, and but it works both ways because the thing is, any decision you make has to be evidence-based, and so I can appeal, or if it's there, the evidence, we have to overcome it. So either way, yeah, it's important that you have it. And we've got, at the moment, as I understand from the officer, just one complainant, but no detail. And the thing is, it's not good enough, in my opinion. It's not good enough to say a complaint is not because they're intimidated. That should have been written within in the report, saying we represent a neighbour. We've spoken to the neighbour. This is what it is. These are the dates. This is the time. Not identifying the neighbour. And also, there's local councillors. The Licensing Act gives guidance in dealing with neighbours that are concerned about, I don't know, intimidation. There's no evidence here of intimidation. And the guidance says, well, if a neighbour is, an officer can act on their behalf by disclosing it without disclosing their identity. So, but it's not good enough just to raise it here in public on the afternoon, and it's not even written in, and it's a bit unfair on my client. But I understand your point. Look, we've got to work at a very high level. We'll work with the officer. We want to get it right, and we want to continue to run our business.
Yeah. Olalekan.
I mean, I wish Ismail was there, because I totally disagree on what Mr. Dodd was just saying now. Every time we get complaints, we have a system. I'll do a copy and paste. I send it to an email. I send it to him. We received 3 complaints, 4 complaints. He's aware of everything. So I'm surprised that he has not been giving you the correct information.
But the point is, officer, through you, Chair, maybe I'm stepping out the mark by speaking. That information should have been put within the objection to the 10.
Well,
and
because
then we can deal with it.
Well, okay, maybe in future we'll add it to it. But I've always been keeping Ismail, along, give him the right information to let him know that we received complaint, the reason for the complaint, the time it went on for. I always provide him all the information, and I'm surprised that it's totally different from what you're telling us here.
Yeah, well, it's just the thing is, Olalekan, has just not ended up. That detail hasn't ended up in the pack.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
That's what Mr. Dad's saying. We can only deal with really what's in front of us in a way.
Yes,
I mean, loosely, we've got the word complaint in there, but we haven't really got the extent, and it's the extent part that Mr. Dad's is referring to.
Okay, in future we'll take that on board. We'll take that on board.
Councillor Conway, you would like to come in?
Sorry, just to say that my question has not really been answered.
So
I'd asked a question quite specifically around the noise management plan. And I just wanted to know what officers, what your assessment was of this plan, and whether this provides you, in your professional sort of opinion, with assurances that the complaints, not thinking about the complaints that you've referenced in this meeting, but the complaints that are detailed, or what has been mentioned in the appendix, should I say, instead, about the issues with granting this license, whether this allays any of those concerns for you. And then also, sorry, the second part of that question was to Mr. Dad's about where has this come from, essentially. Is this noise management plan? What's it in response to?
Yeah, and the actual legal limit, Mr. Dad's, you mentioned you go on and look up.
If licensees or management of any commercial venue, if they implement those noise mitigations, there won't be any problem. So the problem is, most of it, they just send that information to us. They don't actually implement it. So if they implement it, there shouldn't be any problem.
Yeah, can I just come back on that very, very briefly, Olalekan? You mentioned, because we've been talking about the limit, and they in their documents it says 85, and they've actually reduced it to 82. But you say 82 is still insufficient, for someone not to be able to hear that above the room, kind of thing. Is that right? And then Mr. Daz was going to go away and look at what the legal limit actually is.
There isn't any legal limit anyway.
Or like an advisory limit, I think he mentioned. Mr. Daz, is that correct? You said the government put out some advisory.
No, what it was is that the government said during COVID, and I'm trying to find the guidance that said you weren't allowed to play music. So then there was this discussion. It's like what's a mill, what's not a mill. There was that discussion about
Yeah.
what is a mill. They did the same discussion about music, and the government gave guidance that music should not be played more than 82 dBA, because they considered that then is music that would encourage dancing, etc. So it sort of said background level 82. Now, that, obviously, that's depending on each premises, all that. But I thought it was just interesting as a guide that the government saw at the time that wasn't enough that would encourage dancing and all that sort of stuff during COVID. That's all.
Yeah. And Olalakan, can I just ask you what the environmental protection officers consider a reasonable level of decibels?
Well, subjectively, I would prefer that a music limiter, sound limiter, is set from the nearest noise-sensitive premises.
Right.
I'll give you an example now. If, for instance, the venue is here and the nearest noise-sensitive property is like 100 meters away, of course, they can play 82 decibels.
Yeah.
Or if a noise-sensitive premises shares a party wall with a noise venue, obviously you can't pay 82 decibels. So they've got to set that limiter based on what they assess inside that noise-sensitive premises.
Yeah. I mean, just loosely, just to get an idea, can I just ask you, Olalakan, in a situation similar to this, what level did you set the limiter at in a place like that? Does that make sense?
It's still very difficult because
Mr. Daz, I know it's not exact. It's not exact science, but just getting a rough idea here.
It's very difficult still because most premises are not soundproofed, or some are soundproofed, but not effectively. So it's still based on what the how the music is contained within the space, where it's coming from. So that's subjectively, we'll rather prefer that it's set from the nearest noise.
What I'm asking you in a similar situation, what has that been set at, roughly?
Honestly, I can't give you any figure. I can't give you any figure.
You can't. Okay.
Yeah, we do not encourage that at all.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it's just because a way out of this might be to say to Mr. Dads, maybe drop it by another 2. You know, I don't know. You know, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
We're trying to find a way out. We're trying to find a way out of stopping complaints, and if we can stop complaints by the noise being kind of reduced volume, then that would be a good thing for everybody, wouldn't it?
So, for instance, if I say 75 dB now, I'll be unfair to the commercial premises, because if they play at 75 decibels and the music is inaudible inside the complainant's property, they've reduced the level now. It's of no good to them. So they've got to play the music at the highest level. However, they need to take into consideration the noise-sensitive property that is nearer to them.
Yeah, but it goes back to my point about the report, because you said basically if they do everything in the report, in the noise management plan, if that was all adhered to, then you wouldn't have a problem. But actually in there it says 85, and you're saying to me that you do have a problem with 85.
Yeah, like I said to you at the beginning of this conversation, I don't usually go through the noise mitigations measures they propose, because that aspect is actually dealt with by GERCH. So I don't have it. Yeah, but now that you've told me, if I had seen that GERCH has showed me that, I would have rejected it straight away. I want to say
let's bring GERCH in now, please.
Yeah.
GERCH, do you want to come back?
Hi there, thank you, Chair. Just want to address Councillor Conway's question regarding the noise management plan. This noise management plan was actually requested a few months back when the TENs were being applied for, because, again, the premises user and the licensee was fully aware that there's a higher volume of complaints that are coming through, especially when there are temporary event notices. So I actually advised them to say, I actually advised Ismail to, for future temporary event notices, please add this in, please add your noise management plan in, so we're fully aware that you're complying with this. The 85 dB is when we've made proactive visits during some of the events, we haven't witnessed any loud music coming from the premises when it's been made from outside, just near outside the pavement area. So we've deemed it okay in that sense. But this past weekend, about 2 weeks ago, what Ola's referring to, the latest complaint, there has allegedly been a noise breakout, and that is what is obviously a big concern to us right now. And that's why perhaps the noise limiter has been tampered with, or something has changed. We're not entirely sure. So that's why Ola had requested that it be looked into and perhaps reset if need be, and give us an update.
Yeah, but you have heard that the machinery in there does record. It records the levels on particular days and dates. It'd be worth looking at that in the future. Anyway, Mr. Dad's members, any comments? Further
Can I
comments?
just make a couple, if I may, just very briefly? Yep. Councillor Conway, you've heard now how the report come about. We have been working with Environment Health. We generally, obviously, we respect the officers. We work with the officers. We've spent over 100,000 soundproofing that. And as the officer just said, standing outside, they've never witnessed it themselves. Standing outside on their covert visits, they don't give us notice. They've never witnessed any noise. You've heard that the complainant is across the road who's complaining on behalf of someone else that says that they wish to complain. The thing is, it's like we do have a problem with a residence across the road. They've been complaining to licensing. We've had to provide CCTV. We've been jumping over all sorts of fences to do that, and none of it's been substantiated. We've got no objection from the police. The officers, your officers, when they've gone there, they've got no complaint. They've got a recent one, yeah. But when we started this conversation at the beginning, it's like we're getting complaints each and every time on the 10. And I'm saying, well, why would you grant another one and then another one and another one? But we've not got any evidence. And it's unfair. We've had lots of discussion around this, but there's no evidence. And Amanda North will advise you, of course, and you're wise enough, as you all are. I say that we've reduced the noise limiter from 85 to 82. 82. We are happy to provide, if we're required to provide a certificate, or the officer can come along and see the device. But as you say, they've come along anyway, and when they go outside, they can't hear it. 82 is low. I mean, for us, you can't hear it outside. The officer's not heard it outside. Obviously, we'll be on notice during this 10 to make sure everything is being in accordance with the plan, that we're not disturbing our neighbours, and if they get a complaint, the officers are more welcome to come in and check. There's no evidence that we're tampering with our machine. There's no evidence our machine is not working correctly. No evidence of officers of any complaints. I ask that the 10 is granted as applied for.
Okay, great. Just to put you in the picture a little bit, members, this is for members really. A whisper is about 30 decibels. A normal conversation is about 60. And a motorcycle engine is about 95. So it just gives you sort of a rough idea as to where we're at with 82.
Yeah, and just to chair, although I'm not the expert, I can say that 10 decibels is a doubling. So if you go, and 3 is just audible, changeable, and 10 is a doubling. So just so that it's not just a slight. So if you've gone from 82 to 92, that's a doubling. That's why nightclubs and dancing is normally around 96 to 100.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much. We are just ending the discussion phase, unless, of course, members have further points of clarification or questions at this point to raise. Any further questions, members, you'd like to quiz them on? No? I just wanted some clarification about the date and the time. I presume it's a Saturday. It's a very early Sunday morning. Is that correct? 27th of the 10th. No, hold on.
I've got the 13th.
Yeah, 13th. Sorry, I read.
That's right.
So on the 13th, from
it's going into the following day because we have a license up to that time.
Yeah, so we're talking about very early Sunday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday going to Sunday.
Yeah.
I believe that's the day. Can I just have that checked? The 13th, is that a Sunday, please? Yeah. And Chair, you will notice that we're entitled. We can have up to 26 days a year. We only use 13, so we're not using them
Yeah.
all the time. We're only doing it for events.
Yeah. Great. I mean, it seems to me that, you know, this venue's having tens, you know, occasionally. It's not necessarily chronic, but it's that you're having tens regularly. You know, the venue will know as well as we, you know, as well as we do, that, you know, that any complaints coming in, members have to take very seriously, because we're trying to kind of strike that balance. You know, so ultimately, it really is not in their interest to be getting any further complaints, frankly. So if you could just relay that to them, that would be much appreciated. At this stage, we will move to closing remarks. I will invite Mr. Dadds to come forward. I mean, you've sort of made them already, but just
I don't have to make any point. I think I just did that then. So, okay, thank you.
Great. And then either Gertz or Olalakan to come in. Which one of you wants to come in with your final closing remarks? Or you can have, both of you can have a little go if you want. It's up to you. Can't hear you. Olalakan, you're on mute.
I would just advise that Mr. Ismail, the licensee for U7, to consider resetting the limiter from the flat or the unit above the venue. If that is done, there won't be any further complaints from the people at the back of the property.
Okay, well, that's worth looking into, Mr. Dadds. If you could relay that to them as well, it'd be useful. And Gertz, do you want to come in finally with your closing remark?
Thank you, Chair. Just echoing what Ola's got to say, I mean, this is a fairly easy, it can be resolved fairly easily. Reset the limiter if need be, and take it from there, I suppose. I mean, yes, there has historically been complaints, and apologies to the Chair and everyone attending today that we haven't got the exact complainant times and dates. But in the future, if this does come up again, rest assured you will have a comprehensive list. And yeah, I mean, let's take this step by step. It's just that we didn't receive some of the information that we requested from the premises user, and that's obviously why, one of the key reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to note as well, just on the fact that this it records a maximum and minimum level, which we've been told that you will be able to access. It would be worthwhile trying to access some of that information as well for further reports in the future.
Thank you.
Is that
Yes.
okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've sort of reached the end there, unless there's any final points of clarification that anyone wants to make on the call. Members, any points of final clarification? Okay, nothing more to be considered. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. We will go off and deliberate this, and you'll find out by phone tomorrow, Mr. Dadds, written in 5 days. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, it won't be written in 5 days. It has to be by tomorrow morning at the latest.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Because of
I'm
the
thinking
event this
about normal
weekend.
application.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Good afternoon, members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.